thinking back, this was magic at the time.
Steve Jobs and his team really believed that they had a revolutionary product on their hand.
People are now walking around with supercomputers in their pockets.
When the iPhone was first released, no one knew for sure just how much it would change the way we communicate. 10 years later, it's clear this pocket-sized device has an enormous impact on the world.
I think people understood that the iPhone was going to be an important project, but I don't think anybody understood how revolutionary it was going to be 10 years out.
Fred Vogelstein wrote a book about the competition between Apple and Google and how their budding rivalry pushed the limits of what people thought a smartphone was capable of.
The iPhone not only has changed how we entertain ourselves and how we communicate, but it's also in the process of changing a slew of other industries. It's hard to imagine our lives without one of these things in our pockets.
Now, roughly 80% of American adults own a smartphone. Think about how much of your day is dependent on that device. How you travel, the games you play, the media you consume, how you share your life with others, what you buy, and how you pay for it.
I don't think people truly grasped how revolutionary the ability to access, buy, consume, communicate anytime, anywhere has been given to them as a result of a smartphone, and specifically the role iPhone played in defining this market.
Technology consultant Tim Beherin has been covering consumer tech since before the first Mac was even announced.
In the fall of 2006, there was a lot of word that started to leak out that Apple was doing a phone. And the hype, to be honest with you, became very, very high. Some people even called it the Jesus phone. Palm Trio opened the door for the concept of a smartphone. What Apple did, though, is refine it.
But the undeniable success of the iPhone today was not always obvious to everyone.
The old school at that time, the Steve Ballmers at Microsoft, it was very clear. He said this was never going to fly.
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard.
A lot of them felt Apple had done really well with the iPod, but they were still a computer company.
First adopters were excited by the sleekness of the technology, but according to financial analyst Gene Munster, initial sales were not fantastic.
There were expectations on that opening weekend that the iPhone would just crush it. And in fact, they didn't sell very many iPhones on that opening weekend, 270,000.
It wasn't until the introduction of the App Store that Wall Street began to acknowledge the iPhone's market potential.
There's an app for just about anything.
They began bringing developers in. All of a sudden, we started to get thousands and thousands of apps to today where we've got over 2 million apps for the iPhone and iOS. That's what really started causing the iPhone to take off.
Apple sold more than 1 million units of the third-generation iPhone in the first weekend of its release. The App Store paved the way for new methods of doing business. Companies like Uber, Airbnb, Snapchat, and Instagram might not even exist without it.
The iPhone now is about 60% of Apple's revenue. So this has been a transformative product at the core.
By 2016, the company sold 1 billion iPhones around the globe. But of course, Apple wasn't the only company to bring smartphones to the world.
Android is 80% and iPhone is about 20% of the smartphone market. One of the things that the competition between Apple and Google did was it made the smartphone business much better for consumers. I think that both companies pushed each other really hard, and I think the innovation accelerated exponentially as a result of that.
Their innovative smartphone technology has also brought internet access to huge sections of the world that may not have been connected otherwise.
The majority of people in India, for example, do not have a desktop computer or a laptop. You go to parts of Asia, you go to parts of Africa, and a big part of South America, the smartphone is the device that they use to connect to the internet and use for communication. By 2020, we'll sell between 3 and 3.5 billion smartphones worldwide. We're getting close to 2/3 of the planet.
Massively disruptive, for better and worse.
I go out and I see people, entire families, huddled around their devices. I mean, the kids have tablets, mom and dad had their phones, and you just see the glowing faces all just sitting around ignoring each other. And I don't know that that's what we wanted to build.
Andy Grignon was part of the team that invented the iPhone.
On the serious side effect, billboards say don't text and drive because people die. They're so fixated on using their phone.
American smartphone owners check their phones more than 9 billion times a day collectively. That's 47 times a day per person. For 18 to 24-year-olds, 82 times a day.
Let's make the most connected thing ever that turns people into zombies. I was at the U2 concert last week. You just see this sea of screens. Now I know they're not all iPhones, but I think it's neat to see people capturing the moments in their lives. It's a way to remember and to connect. So you take the good and the bad.
Negative or positive, the iPhone is clearly one of the most transformative consumer products in history, changing how we talk, work, and live. And it's only been a decade.
Apple brought a revolution to the market with the iPhone that has impacted across every industry and every life. We're only 10 years into this journey.
I think it's changed society. I'd like to think it's for the better. I think there are times when I fixate on the times when it's not for the better, but I'm happy the product is what it is today.